Hi everyone, welcome to another session of Training Tips with Ward. In this session and the following video, I'm going to be discussing some more information on how I train the directed jumping exercise. I'll be adding several additional points about sending your dog to the center of the ring, to the center post, and having him reliably turn and sit. Regardless of the situation, I want my dog to head for that center post or center stanchion, in this case with the baby gate setup, and I want him to reliably make that turn and stop on the spot. Now, when a dog goes to the center post, when one of my dogs heads for the center post, I want that dog thinking that the only two jobs that I have are, number one, get a treat off the center post, and if there isn't a treat, touch it with my nose. The overriding factor, of course, is the command for the turn and sit. This works similar to the command of the drop on the drop-on recall exercise. I'll also be discussing how to build drive in your dog. So often we see dogs heading for the center post or going out to the far end, and they're not going very quickly. I'll also be discussing a problem that we often see with our dogs when they're approaching a jump, and that is that they are stressing. And as a result of this stress, you'll often also see stutter stepping, and in particular, you may see an early takeoff. Finally, I'll be reviewing a number of situations that we can use in proofing the directed jumping exercises. And they all relate to the background and what the dog sees visually. So often what the dog sees is asymmetric or is not balanced. And this lack of balance tends to pull the dog to one side or the other of the center post. Finally, I'll be putting it all together with a demonstration of the directed jumping exercise. As I've said before, I want my dog to think that there's a treat out there or that there's a payoff of some sort. So I always start in this manner in training it. There is a treat on the middle stanchion at the moment. I'm going to place him in a stand and do the back up behind with the flexi and call him, and give him a light tug, call him for a turn and sit. Stand. Stay. Remember, I go up one side, back behind, walk back, walk back, walk back, to a point about here, dash, sit. Good boy, what a guy. And I walk forward and I give him a treat on that. So even though there is a treat on that center post, he's going to turn and sit. So let's try it now without a flexi. Go touch. Dash, sit. Yes, excellent. Now notice that I don't call my dog back down the center after that turn and sit. A word about building drive. The way I like to build drive is by using the opposition reflex. And the way I like to do it is by taking a 6-foot lead, putting one loop over my hand, and then holding the lead, as you see here, letting it slip through my fingers as the dog goes out for a go out. So if I want to build drive on a go out, this is how I would do it. One important consideration is that if you try this, do not hold your lead high, hold your lead low so that the center of gravity is low and the dog won't pull you over onto your nose if by any chance you get to the end of the lead. Here's how it goes. Sit. Look. Go. Yes. Good boy. So you can see that he pulls very, very hard to the center post. As I mentioned, there are often problems in jumping that occur in association with the directed jumping exercise. Two of them, one is stutter stepping, and the other is early takeoff. Now, in both cases, I've tried cavalettis to cure such a situation, and they work to a greater or lesser extent. I've never been very happy with them. However, I started training my dog early on to jump full height right from in front of the jump, about 2 or 3 feet back. Now, what does that mean? It means that the dog gains confidence and is able to jump full height from right in front. Therefore, when he is coming toward the jump, he isn't stressing to the same degree. Another important thing is that you're taking the jumping part of the exercise itself out of context, so to speak. In other words, there is no approach from the other end of the ring. If you stop and think about it, dogs can only handle one variable at a time. And therefore, if you're sending a dog and you assume that he can jump this, but you do it by simply setting him up back in the center of the ring at the back, you'll discover that, hey, this dog maybe has a bit of a problem handling these variables: distance, speed, plus the jump. So the way I like to train it is by starting with the jump, starting up close, and then building distance. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how easy it is for a dog that has been taught in this manner to take the jump. And I might also add that any time my dog takes a jump, usually it's because of an early takeoff, and if that's the case, the next thing that I do when I get out of the ring is find somewhere that I can set up a jump and do as I'm going to demonstrate to you. So I set my dog up in a sit directly in front of the jump, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, 2.5 feet from the bar, and leave him, and I'm going to the other side, and I'm going to call him over. Over. Yes! Oh, what a smart guy! Yeah, what a guy! So the next demonstration I'm going to provide is going to be a complete directed jumping exercise. You'll notice that I don't use a verbal. I use a simple hand signal to the side. Right hand for the jump that is on my right, left hand or arm for the jump that is on my left. The reason that I do that is because too often we see dogs pick the jump that they think is the right one, and the judge gives us the opposite jump. And the dog then is all ready to move on the jump that he has picked. And when he hears the verbal, he heads for the jump that he's picked. However, I do train with a verbal and a signal in combination. This allows me, if I find that the dog has looked away, to use the verbal in that case. And if I'm going to use the verbal, it's going to be as my arm reaches the peak of its movement in a vertical movement like this. Over. Or if it's on the other side, it'll be like this. Over. So it's as I reach the peak of the movement of the arm that I call the verbal, if necessary. So to demonstrate the directed jumping exercise in total, and I'm a little bit closer to the jumps than I would like to be, or that I would normally be, the reason being that the lens dictates that I have no more room than where I'm standing right now. So here goes. Hopefully he'll make a quick turn as he comes over. Ready? Go touch. Dash, set. So as you can see, that angle that after he came over the jump was a little more than normally I would experience. And it makes it a little difficult. He's not used to that quick of a turn. Nevertheless, let's try it one more time on the other side. And this time, I will use a verbal in combination. Go touch. Dash, set. Over. Little crooked, bud. Come on. That's all right. Cut. So here are some proofing situations that you can work on. Now, sometimes we don't have a center post, and often here in Canada we end up sending to curtains. Well, in a setup like you see right now, how does the dog learn to go to the center of the curtained area? Well, again, what I've done here is I have put a slight cut. These are 2 black sheets, by the way. In the edge of one, I've put a slight cut, and through that cut, I've taken and worked a black zip tie on it, so you can't really see the zip tie. On that, I've cut off the zip tie, and I've slipped over a treat at the point that would be the center point. Because what I want the dog to do is to feel comfortable going out to this situation, even though he may not have seen it before. So I train him in this manner. He learns that if he just goes straight out, there'll probably be a payoff there. So just to demonstrate that, I'm going to let him get his payoff this time. Ready? Look. Go! So he got his payoff. Dash. Sit. Yes. Good boy. Good boy. Come on. That's good. Now repeating that go out, and in this case doing it without a treat, I'm going to call him shortly before, about 5 feet before. And we'll hopefully get the turn and sit the way we would like to have it without a center post. Go. Dash. Sit. Good boy. Now, often you'll have a dog that goes out, and if it doesn't have a center post, particularly, it will arc one way or the other. Well, what do you do in that situation? Well, there are various ways, putting guides out, putting guides at the far end of the ring, and so on. All of those I find a bit cumbersome because it means hauling broad jump sections around or whatever. In my case, what I do is take 2 pieces of PVC piping, and I attach to those a long length of white rope, cotton rope that you can buy in any hardware store. I then pull the 2 pieces apart, and I have a white line. I then put an additional piece, an additional section of this down on the ground. So it's 2 white lines that act as a guide for the dog to slot through. If you've taught your dog to slot, it becomes a very easy exercise, and it helps the dog immensely. Now, normally, when it's not a very bad peel off to one side or the other, what we can do is simply put out a couple of PVC piping pieces at the point where the dog starts to veer off one way or another, and simply put them down. I prefer this way, because it means I can shorten the guides simply by rolling up the rope around one of the PVC pieces and then using it as a shorter guide. So, sending Dash down the center now, let's take a look at using the guides. Here, Dash, come on. Although Dash doesn't arc, here, usually, touch wood, we'll send him, and you'll see how he'll slot down the center to the center of the curtained area. Look. Go. Sit. Now in that, he's out too far, of course, but I simply did it that way so that you could see the demonstration of how these work. Now, what I would normally do if I wanted to shorten the length of the guides is simply take one of the PVC pieces and roll up the rope, as you see here. So what you see in this particular setup is a center post and two side posts, but with a Eukanuba sign situated to the right of the center post. In this case, because of the asymmetry, there is a chance that the dog will be pulled off the center post over to a point in front of the Eukanuba sign. This sign was actually one of the ones used in the go-out rings in the NOI. To demonstrate the turn and sit in front of the center post, in spite of the fact that there is a Eukanuba sign there, I'm going to send him and we'll cross our fingers. Go touch. Dash, sit. Yes. Prior to the NOI, I had proofed with jackets and tablecloths and whatnot to one side or the other of the center post. It may be necessary to go right back to the beginning. In other words, you put out the distraction, the sign, and then start close, placing a treat on the stanchion, and then backing away, and finally getting full length of the ring, sending him to the center post at the and he should ignore that distraction on either side. Now, sometimes we end up in a situation where we have plastic ring gates, and in that case there is no center post, and it's necessary for the dog to be able to feel comfortable simply heading down the center of the ring to a baby gate. Now, if we have simply a baby gate section, and this is how I would train it, what I've done is placed a white Velcro patch in the middle. I don't have any treats out there right now. The Velcro patch you'll probably see and use it to line up, but I would train it the same way that I've trained the other distraction situations. In other words, get it, mark it, and reward it. And to get it, I simply put a treat so that it's in the center here and not on a post. And again, hopefully the dog will go directly to the center, so we'll see. I train this exactly the same way as I have done with the other background situations. Ready? Look. Go. Dash, sit. Yes. Now, the final example that I'm going to give in this session in terms of proofing is, as you see here, sending to a blank wall. This often happens in Canada, not so much in the United States, and often there may be an electrical outlet box somewhere along the side of the wall. One never knows. Well, the question then becomes, how do you train a dog to feel comfortable going out to a point that is center of the jumps? The way I do it is by simply, come on around. Attaboy, sit. Simply placing a treat on the wall by first putting a small Velcro patch, sit, on the wall, and then that's the hook side of a Velcro patch on the wall, and then putting a treat on the patch, sticking it to the patch like that. Now, in teaching any behavior, there are basically 3 steps, and that's get it, mark it, and reward it. In this case, I'm going to bring my dog up and show him the treat, and then my command is going to be hup, and I want him to put 2 paws up on the wall and get his treat. It looks like this. Hup! Yes! Good boy! Then I'm going to back up. Put him at a sit stay. Stay. Put another treat out. And then I'm simply going to send him to the treat and get him to do a 2-paw plant on the wall and get his treat. Go! Yes. Okay, good guy. Now, I'm doing this very quickly, but you would start, as in other cases, watch me, good boy, as in other cases that I've demonstrated, sit. You would start close and work back until you're full ring length. And then, once he's going out to the center spot, then you can call the turn and sit. You can work it exactly the way as I've demonstrated before, starting close to the spot where the treat is being held, doing your turn and sit, and then backing up. So I'm now going to send him to a blank wall, and we'll see where he goes. Here, come on, get in. Sit. Go. Dash, set. Yes, good guy. Now, in each of the distraction situations that I've demonstrated, I've simply gotten the dog to go to the center of the area or the center of the ring between the jumps and straight out to the end by using treats. There are other ways of doing it with platforms and so on. I like this because it means I'm not hauling around platforms and I'm not hauling around rectangles of PVC for my dog to go into and so on. My first point is that I want the dog to go out in a straight line. And secondly, I want that dog to feel comfortable. In other words, if there are distractions, the dog, and you can see this in the ring, a dog will go out, and if he's uncertain, if suddenly he sees, oh, my center post isn't there, you'll see the dog peel off to one side or peel off to the other. Or if it's asymmetric, he may pick a spot thinking that it's a center post and peel off to that. I want my dog, through all this proofing, to understand that all he has to do is feel relaxed and happy and run down the center of the ring. With time, muscle memory takes over. So regardless of the situation, the dog, through muscle memory, still moves straight down the center of the ring to the position that you want for the call on the turn and sit. Well, I hope this helps you in terms of training this exercise. As I said initially, this is one of the most difficult exercises to train in competition obedience. Well, that about winds it up for the directed jumping exercise part 2. I hope you've enjoyed it. And remember, have fun training your dog.